Hi everyone, DB here, bringing you my overall impression and review of Guild Wars 2. So, let's get started. With all the MMOs out there battling to dethrone the mighty World of Warcraft, there have been a ton of MMOs that have made some revolutionary strides in video gaming, some who gambled on one diverse attribute to carry the game to success, and some that made some pretty bold and valiant attempts at cracking the mighty WoW, but failing to deliver. With all the different types of new systems and gameplay mechanics that were introduced, I must say that, by far, none have been impressive in features and gameplay as Guild Wars 2. I must admit at first when the game was announced and I listened to everything the developers said they were trying to accomplish, I said to myself, good luck to them. Because at that time, I've seen and was utterly disgusted by how many other games such as Warhammer Online and Rift attempted this so-called new type of dynamic interaction gameplay, and failed miserably. I was almost immediately turned off by the announcement and I thought, oh here we go again, another feeble attempt at trying to create the new wheel. But now that I've tried out the game in the beta weekend event, I was so utterly blown away by this game that I actually wanted to go back in time and slap my former self for thinking that this was going to be another Warhammer Online. Everything that the developers said they would do, they did, and almost flawlessly. The new dynamic event system that has been the talk of the town on almost any forum is probably one of the most fun systems I have ever come across, not only in MMO gaming, but almost in every type of RPG game I've ever played. When a town or farm was under attack, you don't see a random NPC there standing with a yellow exclamation mark above his or her head explaining to you what needs to be done. In Guild Wars 2, there are actual NPCs running away from town, yelling and screaming at almost anyone around them for help, and at the same time pointing you and sometimes even guiding you back to where the help is needed. If this isn't enough to immerse the player into the situation, you actually see the farm or town burning. You see centaurs killing NPCs, and most definitely you see centaurs netting the farmers and dragging them back to their base in the hills. Immediately when I saw what was going on, I dropped what I was doing and was instantly immersed in defending the NPCs from this attack. Also, the music that kicks in when you engage in events is epic, and it's like being in a movie because it blends with what's going on so well that you don't even notice it transition to intense music. This also goes for the sounds of battle, because everything fits so perfectly, whether it's fireballs hitting the ground, to a giant sword cleaving through the enemy. It just feels like how a game should. Perfect. And it doesn't stop there. If you fail to save the farmers, then another event kicks in to raid the centaur base and rescue them. And yes, I checked. These are all the same NPCs who got kidnapped, not some random situational stand-in NPCs. To confirm this, I stayed at the centaur camp and actually saw them put the NPCs into cages, to which we have to break the cages to free the NPCs. And when you successfully rescue the NPCs, the centaurs get mad and attack a close-by outpost. Then another event kicks in to defend, attack, rescue, ambush, guard caravans, etc, etc, etc. And before I knew it, over an hour and a half had passed of me just being in those 6 linked areas, gaining like 4 levels, great loot, and being totally and completely immersed in such fun that it was tough to pry me away from protecting those NPCs. This is exactly how an RPG game should be. Not exactly event-driven, action, or combat, or story, but just getting the player immersed in such a way that is unforgettable and makes the player feel like they are actually part of that world, that they are actually contributing to a greater cause, and that their choice and them being there actually means something in that world at that place at that time. This is what every MMO game lacks today. Moving on, I do admit the controls are a bit weird at first, but once you get used to them, they are pretty fun to do. It was weird at first being able to fire arrows at nothing, swing my sword randomly in the air just because I felt like it, and the little delay after your target dies and you're still firing your arrows and swinging your sword does feel a bit retarded. But the fact that everything has a hitbox that you can hit regardless if you're targeting them or not just made your skills make a little bit more sense and made them feel how object interference is supposed to be in gaming. With all that being said, I do admit that the delay on certain skills does feel like they need to be polished a bit, because when you're playing a game that's driven by dodging lethal attacks, and I really do mean insta-give lethal, the player should be able to hit his Serpent Strike dodge or any ability that would save his or her life without a silly 1-second delay. That being said, I do realize that this is beta, and maybe I'm just so not used to dodging in this game yet that this was its original intent and purpose in the first place. But I'm just saying that a little more freedom when one's life is at stake would be nice. Moving on to PvP, I have to admit, I haven't had this much massive PvP fun since War of Imperium in Ragnarok Online. In World vs. World vs. World, or World v World v World, the massive map, objectives, events, and battles are just amazing. It actually feels like a war. You actually feel the intensity of the battles around you with catapults, guards, NPCs, monsters, keeps, traps, battering rams, and almost anything you can ask for in a massive castle siege-oriented system. Guarding supply NPCs made sense. Fortifying defenses on certain keeps, while arming another one close to it with catapults to barrage invaders at a distance just felt unbelievable. And you'd be surprised on how many people will actually come to your aid if you're in trouble, because it is your server pitched up against 2 other servers. I found the system to be incredibly fun, that I almost wanted to stay there for the whole beta, and I was literally thrilled to find out that you can level entirely through PvP if you ever wanted to. When I learned that, I was just like, wow. I was almost crying in my seat. Breaking down to the graphics of the game, everything really felt like eye candy. It was like watching Avatar in 3D for the first time, just with no blue people. Every area was unique to the next, and you can really feel the personality that the developers put in all the different areas. And I must also admit that seeing Divinity's Reach for the first time in the distance just amazed me. It was an incredible sight, and was even more amazing as I toured the city. It felt like a living and breathing city with NPCs who will greet you as you pass and as they pass. They will be telling you what you can check out in the city without you even having to click on them. Again, the way this game immerses the player is just astonishing. Breaking it down to character customization, the choices seem simple at first, but then they break down to greater detail from nose and iris sizes, all the way down to dyes of at least 2 to 4 different parts of your clothing on your head, torso, legs, and feet. And yes, these colors stay with the new gear that you find and can be changed at any time. Moving on to the weapon skills and skill customization, I must say the weapon skills seem too simple to me. The fact that you get 2 to 5 skills depending on the weapon, and can combine them with offhand regardless of what class you are is pretty fun. But it felt too empty that by the time I was level 7, I had already almost capped every weapon for my class. I know that this is only beta and it may be improved later, but I really hope that they maybe add advanced tier skills per weapon to keep the flavor ripe and solid. Moving on to class skills and traits, I must admit it feels really good. You can customize your character and feel unique to the other person who is the same class as you, because they would spend their skill points and traits differently than you almost definitely. Class skills are skills specific to your class and can range from active skills, passive skills, or both. And you can get these points by leveling and doing skill challenges in the world marked by blue arrows. This system feels really fun and great, because it gives the player an option to go grab another skill point by choice if they are only 1 point away from getting a desired skill. And you can always go back to your trainer to reset and redistribute these points. Traits are more passive attributes and conditions that affect your character after you spend a certain amount of points in a certain trait category. Like for example, as a ranger, I spec'd into the marksman trait, which grants me attack power and condition damage for every point I spent in that trait line. And also, for every 5 points on that line, I get a passive ability by default. And with 10 points spent in that trait line, I was opened up to the option of choosing 1 to 11 passive traits for my character. Everything from increasing range of bows, health of my pet, and damage of certain weapons. This system feels really awesome and unique to anything I've ever tried in MMO gaming. Moving on and keeping it short in the story quest system, it feels really nice. The cinematics are kind of like Mass Effect in a way, but everything feels more like Dragon Age. And it's important to note too that your story quest will most likely be entirely different than the person next to you, because the story you go through is based on your character's personality that you choose in the beginning when you first create your character. Needless to say, this makes the game feel really like a single player game at times, but in a good way. And at the same time, in the future I believe, it was announced that you can bring your friends into your story quest too to experience your story with you. Bravo ArenaNet, bravo. Unfortunately, about the only thing I haven't had time to try is the crafting system, but from what I've heard from the other beta testers, it's really dynamic as well as really appealing and fun. I'm sure you can probably search for a video on this system, so if you're at all interested, I highly encourage you to do it. With everything that I've talked about, I have to say that what the Guild Wars 2 trailer said was right. If you like MMOs, you're gonna want to check out Guild Wars 2. And if you don't like MMOs, then you're really gonna want to check out Guild Wars 2. Because I honestly can't say it any better. Everything about this game, from exploring, to combat, to events, to getting lost and immersed in the world, are only the beginning things that now get me excited for this game's launch. I have not yet touched even half of what this game has to offer, and already I am committed to being there when the game launches at midnight, whenever they finally announce it. Of course, once again, this is just entirely my opinion. You may have a different playstyle or game preference, but I can honestly say 100% that if you don't at least try this revolutionary game, you're missing out a lot. I would talk about all the hardware that you should have before even trying to commit to this game, but honestly, in my opinion, this game deserves to be run at ultra settings at all times because of how beautiful it is. So if you do have questions or concerns about the hardware you should have before running this game, you can feel free to message me on YouTube or post it in the box below. So thank you for watching my review of Guild Wars 2 over the beta weekend event, and I hope that this video has encouraged you to at least take a look at the game in some way if you're not interested already. Please feel free to leave your comments, suggestions, questions, or whatever in the box below, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to like me on Facebook right here, facebook.com/gamerdb, to keep up with me and friends on upcoming games, new releases, and beta events. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Good luck and have fun.